BT TV is probably evolving as rapidly as the service offering is. So I think a BT TV viewer used to be what I would call a kind of legacy BT broadband customer, families, older people. And then what we've seen now with the launch of BT Sport is we've started bringing in a lot more younger males. BT Sport's probably the most widely viewed service on the BT TV platform now. And then as we brought Netflix on, and now with AMC launching, we're obviously seeing that broaden out, more of a female balance, and getting younger and younger all the time. So,
what sort of people are actually coming in purely for BT TV or signing up to BT services for that package?
I think people who want great value entertainment, but at a much smaller price than they were previously getting on Sky and Virgin. So people who love television but maybe don't have time to want to be super served at the premium end. I think there is definitely a kind of transition going on in the television industry where what I would call full-fat pay TV is now very well served at the top end, and most of the growth you're seeing is either Freeview people upgrading into what I'd call pay light, or people at the top end of pay TV who now want to spend a bit less and finding that actually there are great value services now, whether that's through BT TV, whether that's through Netflix. There's now quite a lot of choice in the middle range at lower prices.
And what sort of content is it that's actually bringing people in? You've invested a lot in getting AMC on, you've invested a lot in sport as well. What's the main draws that are bringing people?
I think it's pretty clearly both sport and drama, or drama and general entertainment. Drama and general entertainment have the broadest mass appeal, but sport, particularly certain marquee sports categories, are incredibly powerful motivators. They're real must-have content. So really it's between those two things where I think viewers see the content as being unmissable and then are prepared to subscribe to watch it.
And AMC is just launching this summer. How did that deal actually come about? What was the process behind thinking that was the thing you needed to bring more customers in?
I think we had been looking at how we brought BT Sport and BT TV more closely together. And we were preparing for the launch of Champions League, where we were creating a BT TV experience with Ultra HD and with the red button and all in HD that made BT TV and BT Sport become one unique vision. And as part of that, we were also then saying, okay, so what next for BT TV? How do we broaden the appeal of BT TV beyond sports fans and beyond the sort of what I would call more the Freeview upgrader zone that we had got to? And we'd always had the challenge that we weren't able to get hold of the Sky entertainment channels, which are obviously very popular. And so there was a clear next step for us to go for Netflix and then to bundle that into our subscription, which at that moment was a world first because Netflix had never agreed to be packaged into a bundle before. And then that started us, I think, on a journey of looking at drama and entertainment and saying, how do we build from there? And AMC happened to come to us, I think it was at MIP actually, last April. They were now trying to move into a global channel strategy, having been a very successful US cable channel. And actually for us it made sense not just to look at our own original content investments, but actually to look at really strong partnerships. And AMC just had such an incredible track record for success that we thought there was really something quite interesting in there. And then obviously wrapped around the fact that you had Fear the Walking Dead launching this summer, there was just a moment in time where we realised we actually could get a channel up and running in the space of 3 months, premiere it around a really fantastic show like Fear the Walking Dead, and then also for us lock that together with our Champions League launch and turn the whole thing into something bigger than... But it was a pretty spontaneously built strategy, it'd be fair to say.
Fear the Walking Dead is the big title. What else is coming down the line on AMC? Is there anything else that's going to be as big a draw?
Well, the next day we'll launch a series called Rectify, which I think is actually going to be... It was very critically acclaimed in the States. It's about a guy who's been on death row in Georgia for 19 years for supposedly murdering his girlfriend, who's then cleared and goes back into his hometown and tries to resume his life. There'll be a range of great movies, and then we've got things like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, where you'll have another chance to see those series from the start. And then when we go into 2016, there's some quite exciting new commissions that AMC is working on that I'm not at liberty to share yet, but will be coming to the channel then.
Since you joined, there's been quite a lot of talk about BT commissioning its own shows and getting people to make things specifically for you. Obviously, you're talking to people, I'm sure, but What kind of stuff are you looking for if you are assessing those?
I think we're looking at a wide range of things. AMC obviously has triggered a lot of people now to come to us and make proposals, whether it's across the US or from within the UK. I think there is a clear appeal of premium drama in the marketplace. There are around 9 million homes that have heavy viewing of premium drama, and I think access to that kind of content is starting to proliferate when you see what Netflix and Amazon has done, as well as what Sky Atlantic has achieved historically. So I think that's an obvious area, but we're looking at a range of different things. But I think at this point we haven't made a concrete next plan. We're now in the midst of obviously the exciting launch of AMC. We want to make that work. We want to see what kind of viewers and subscribers that then brings to us, both for broadband and for BTTV, and then from there we'll work out how we build.
Are you considering, sort of a BT drama channel? Is that the kind of way you go?
I think AMC obviously is a good drama channel, so I think first port of call is get that up and running, get that working, and we're also doing a big marketing campaign right now for the launch of Fear and for the launch of the channel itself, and then we'll see where we build from there.
You've mentioned Netflix and Amazon. Obviously they've spent quite a lot of money recently, not least Top Gear. Do you think there's any difference between the kind of shows you're looking for as someone who's selling a big bundle, like Sky, compared to Netflix and Amazon, which are looking for sort of more casual subscribers?
I think there's some quite interesting dynamics going on in the industry at the moment. So if you look at Netflix, for example, typically a Netflix subscriber is actually sitting in a Sky or a Virgin household and is predominantly going to kind of super served real lovers of premium drama and movies who are actually prepared to pay for Netflix as well as Sky. Clearly in the US, you've seen that be the precursor to some cord cutting, and with all the stock market crashes of some of the big media companies in the past few weeks, the big question here is, will you see that start to happen in the UK as well more? You've got Now TV, which is more focusing on trying to tackle free-to-air upgraders where Sky hasn't yet succeeded, and then I think what BTTV does is it sort of tackles a middle layer across those. It's got fantastic premium sport and drama, so it appeals to people who want access to that content but weren't able to afford Sky or Virgin's prices. But it also appeals to premium people who are now looking to spin down to a better value package. And then, in the case of BT Sport, in some cases it's a complementary additional service in Sky and Virgin homes. So I think the reason it works so well for BT is it's a very flexible, broad model where we can deliver value both through attaching it to broadband growth as well as to TV growth, which I think is, for us, that's the foundation of why it's been successful.
And did you look at Top Gear when it was obviously an opportunity?
To be honest, I didn't. We were approached. For me, at this point in time,
by the team.
Well, by WME, who were packaging it up at that point. It just wasn't right for us at this moment in time. I think it's a fantastic franchise. It makes a lot more sense for a player like Amazon or Netflix because Top Gear's got huge revenues in the US as well. So as a global bid, it made much more sense, I think, than for a UK player like us.
So sports, obviously, where you spent pretty amazing amounts of money recently.
Well, last weekend I spent quite a lot of money.
There's been a lot of talk about rights inflation and what it's sort of doing to people's access to sport. The obvious question is, why are we seeing these huge sums? Why is Sky paying more than, so much more than it did last time round? 5 billion is an unbelievable sum.
I can't comment on why Sky paid 5. I think it was a relatively unbelievable sum, but obviously I think that's probably a question for Sky. Clearly premium sports rights are a very motivational driver, and for BT we take a very financially disciplined approach where we are effectively cherry picking a set of really strong rights that we believe can drive both broadband and television subscriber upside for us. We don't feel we need to have everything or to bid crazy sums for everything, but we started with football, which clearly has the biggest appeal. We then built rugby, and in the case of the Ashes, I think we felt there was an opportunity for us to start to look at building a third sport pillar. And the Ashes just gave us a great entry into that third sport category with a really nice marquee property, right at the moment when there'd just been a fantastic series that we'd won. So,
I mean, one of the things that's happened since you've bought the Champions League is obviously it's no longer on terrestrial TV, and there have been comments from sort of senior executives, particularly at the BBC, about the fact that they can't really compete for these kind of rights anymore. Do you think terrestrial broadcasters, or free-to-air broadcasters in particular, are ever going to be able to bring that kind of those big sporting events back?
Well, I think they still do have a lot of big sporting events. So, I mean, firstly, I think we, for BT Sport, have a vision of getting sport back out to the masses. And so what we have done is offer a lot of really great premium sport for free, and now for £5, which previously was gated behind a £50 or £60 subscription. We haven't taken very much, if anything, off free-to-air. So Champions League and Europa League will still show 12 and 14 games respectively on free-to-air on our new BT Showcase channel. And across the board, BT Sport has brought about 2 million people into a sports subscription that previously had only got free-to-air and couldn't afford it. So I think we'd argue that we're broadening the accessibility of premium sport. And also I think we don't really see a pay versus free dichotomy. Given that we are at the very low end of price of the pay TV market, we work quite in partnership with players like the BBC. So if you take the FA Cup, we work together hand in hand as a partner on that franchise. The rights are split between us. FA Cup ratings are up about 40% year on year, because the way we try and pass between pay and free brings the narrative of the tournament together. And I think it's worked very well. So I don't think we see it as a pay versus free conflict.
You mentioned the £5 fee. I mean, that's come after the additional investment in rights. I mean, are we just going to keep seeing the prices people have to pay go up as these bidding wars between deep-pocketed competitors increase?
Well, I think we've added quite significant categories of rights and put very tiny price points around it. I think probably the bigger challenge for consumers in the marketplace is more that Sky has lost rights but still increased prices. But I still think the net benefit to the consumer is quite strong, because you've still got 2 million plus who now have access to Champions and Premier League content that they previously couldn't afford.
And so, I mean, as you're building out your kind of sports channel, obviously football's the central pillar. What sort of mix do you eventually want in terms of trying to keep people happy with your sport offering?
I think where sports rights are concerned, you've always got to keep your cards fairly close to your chest. So, at the moment, we're very happy with what we've got. We're obviously in the midst of our Champions and Europa League launch. That's a huge step up for us in our coverage. We're launching the new Ultra HD 4K service and trying to really innovate the marketplace as well. So I think between what we've got with football, rugby and now cricket, we're in a great place, and a lot of our focus will be on driving the benefit of that through the business and the top and bottom line growth of BT Consumer.
And what sort of, you've got a lot of paying subscribers. What sort of level does that have to get to make the expenditure on sports rights, completely wash its own face, support itself?
We don't really measure it in terms of subscribers. We measure in terms of BT Consumer's top and bottom line growth. So we've now had 7 consecutive quarters of top line revenue and bottom line EBIT growth after a period of some decline for BT a couple of years back. So I think from BT's perspective, we measure it in the round in that way, and it's looking extremely successful. But we'll remain financially disciplined in how we build that going forward, and it's always got to deliver to the bottom line of the business. And
you mentioned 4K. Is anyone actually using 4K services? I mean, how many TVs are there out there?
Well, it's a bit like HD was 10 years ago. It's part of what I would call the set-top, the television adoption cycle. So, at the moment, the predictions are by the end of this year, about 10% of UK homes will have an Ultra HD TV. Now about 65% of new TVs being sold are 4K. So, clearly that is now growing rapidly, and we wanted to be at the forefront of the innovation, and sport is probably the pinnacle and challenge of production coverage of 4K, but also, the pinnacle of the quality of viewing, to be able to really see the step change between HD and Ultra HD.
If we can open it up to the floor for some questions. Anybody? Sorry, if we just wait for a mic.
There were rumours that you were going to bring some of your sports production in-house, particularly on your Premier League output. Is that still a long-term plan? And what other promises can you make to the UK production community about commissioning stuff or making stuff in this country?
Well, we have already brought in-house our Champions League coverage. So the Champions League has been the first production that we've done in-house from the BT Sport team. But we continue a really fantastic relationship with Sunset and Vine, who still do our Premier League and also our Europa League coverage, and also our rugby, which I think probably of all the production and brand differentiators, we're probably the most proud of our rugby coverage right now. And Sunset Vine have done a fantastic job on that. So, again, I think similarly to whether it's in our production approach or in our channel approach, for example, with AMC, we're very open to partnership. I don't think we have a model which assumes we must own and control everything and do everything in-house. We're a new entrant to the marketplace, and we want to be able to move quite quickly and quite flexibly, and production partnerships make a lot of sense for us. So, I don't see that changing dramatically going forward.
I've got another question for you. One of the sort of things we talked about earlier was the huge kind of amounts of money paid for the really big marquee shows, Tokyo being the obvious one, etc. One of the issues that's been raised, particularly again by BBC executives, is that spending on big, very marketable programmes sort of reduces the amount of money available for the broader spreads that's produced by the indie sector in the UK. I mean, do you think that's a potential problem? Because obviously, as a service, for a pay TV service, you do want this kind of big things to bring in audiences, and there's obviously less money for everything else. I think
BBC and Channel 4 do a fantastic job of being at the heart of the creative sector in the UK and really driving the independent production community and creating some really amazing global brands which work not just in the UK but go out onto the international stage. I think there's a role for pay players as well to do that. I mean, obviously what Netflix is doing, for example, with the Crown and Left Bank Productions, I think is a really good example of global players actually doing some of that as well and bringing great investment back into the independent production community. So if we look at going deeper in that area, we would be very open to anything from independence, US acquisitions. I think there's no real fixed model.
Thank you. Liam Hamilton, Scottish Television, Delia. What are the most appropriate points of entry or people to approach within BT for production companies that wish to throw some ideas at you?
In what genre?
Well, in all genres really, but in sport and beyond.
So I think at the moment probably through my business affairs and business development team, if it's on the entertainment side, and then on the sports side through our sports team, or you can always email me and I'll. But I think that we're a relatively small, tight team, and I'm actually in the process of recruiting a content director, so we'll let you know who that is in due course. But
it's through business affairs. Sorry. Meanwhile, it'd be through business affairs.
Yeah, probably through Tony Singh and Ian Moss, or on the entertainment side, and then on the sports side through myself or Simon Breen. So.
Thank you.
That kind of leads to another question. Obviously, BT is predominantly a telecoms company. Is there any sort of cultural issue with bringing in a broadcasting mindset, having people pitching, commissioners, etc.? Has that been challenging?
No, I mean, not so far, because I guess for me it's been interesting because at Sky I helped the company transition into a broadband operator, and at BT I'm helping the company transition into a TV operator. And each has its own cultural challenges, but I think because television is such an emotional category, and I think for the BT brand it's been, what BT Sport has done for the BT brand has been so strong, there's such a huge excitement across the business at having expanded into that it's a relatively easy conversation most of the time. So.
Does it feel like a more glamorous department within this sort of huge...
There's probably a bit, and BT's such a big business, it's got sort of 6 quite distinct divisions, whereas Sky or Virgin are sort of more single integrated businesses, so it's a very different kind of place to work.
Anyone else? Just in the back, please.
Hi. Obviously, you've got BT Sport app. I just wondered to what extent do these second screen technologies, how important are they across the genres in terms of developing that innovation and that technology?
I think certainly for sport, very important. I think we have a lot of users of BT Sport who only use the BT Sport app. And then I think the same for what we're going to do on Champions League, where you can watch 8 simultaneous games and just press the red button and choose one of those games. And then on the app, you can choose the game, you can choose the camera angle, you can go back on the goal timeline. And so far, all the forum board response to that has been really positive. And I think if you're a football fan, these are really great enhancements that really help you kind of take control of your evening's viewing. So yeah, I think certainly on sport, hugely valuable. And then, I think in the broader entertainment, it's still interesting, but probably not quite so, on the money as for sport.
I have to ask, what kind of response do you get when something goes wrong? Because obviously...
Yeah, the BT Sport app has been our challenge of the last couple of weeks, where we were deluged by volumes of people using it on the opening Champions League games, and you always have to go through those first teething problems because we put together such a sophisticated app that until you've really stress tested that volume, you never know. I think the key thing is respond at speed, respond well to the customers, get the issues fixed, and then get ready for the next game. And that's what we've done. So, but the app is amazing. For anyone who hasn't tried it, the app is really amazing. So,
I mean, you've been talking about 4K, and you're also talking about the app. Everyone's saying that people are moving to mobile screens. Do you see that as much of a central part of your future, or is it still on the TV set?
Well, clearly, if our acquisition of Everything Everywhere closes, we move to being, a quad play business, and I think we'll then integrate mobile much more into the vision of our content services. And EE, in its own television service launch, has already done some interesting things where it has the thing called the flick, where you can control the channel change off your iPad and just flick to the screen and it changes the television. So there are definitely, I think there's lots of scope over the next few years to integrate mobile into the kind of innovation vision of what you do, and we would certainly look at things there.
And does that change, when you're thinking again about what content you need? It's going to be watched on a tiny, tiny screen. Does it ever?
No, I think great content is great content, and what you want to do is make it as usable as possible on multiple screens, of all sizes. I don't think it changes what content you would look at. So.
I think that's just about time up. Thank you very much, Delia.
Thank you.